It all started on a Sunday morning that was supposed to be simple. I was making coffee when my phone buzzed. I figured it was my wife reminding me to grab filters or maybe our neighbor asking to borrow my ladder again. But no, it was our son calling from overseas. His voice was thin, a little scratchy through the static, but there was relief in it. He'd gotten a short leave from deployment. Only problem, his storage unit contract had expired, and everything he owned was about to be auctioned off if we didn't move fast. My wife didn't even let me finish the sentence. "We'll go get it," she said. That's just who she is. Decisive, loving, a freight train in human form. So we rented a trailer, loaded up his furniture tools, all those boxes full of small things that mean more than money ever could, and drove everything to our lake cabin to keep safe until he got back. It was meant to be a good day, a family kind of day. What I didn't know was that we were about to walk straight into a war with the queen of our HOA, a woman named Beverly Crane, who treated bylaws like scripture and herself like the hand of God. At first it was fine. We backed into the driveway, started unloading boxes, laughed a little about how much stuff one man could own after years on base. But by the second trip, I saw those blinds twitching across the street, the universal sign of HOA surveillance. And then here she came, strutting down the gravel like she was marching into battle, holding her clipboard like it was a sword. "Excuse me," she said with that tight smile people use when they're about to ruin your day. "Trailers aren't permitted overnight." I told her calmly we weren't staying overnight, we were just unloading. Explained about our son being deployed, about helping him out. She nodded, but her eyes didn't soften one bit. "Rules are rules," she said, and stomped back toward her house. I thought that was the end of it. I really did. Half an hour later, 2 police cruisers pulled in behind my trailer. My wife froze on the porch, still holding a box of photo albums like it was a hostage situation. The officers were polite, confused even. Apparently, Beverly had called 911 and reported suspicious activity, claiming we might be moving in illegally or running some kind of scheme. I almost laughed, it was that absurd. But seeing my wife's face wiped the humor right out of me. The cops left after 5 minutes and even apologized, but the damage was done. We were now the day's entertainment. Curtains fluttered, whispers spread. Beverly had made us the neighborhood headline. My wife told me to let it go, said people like her always need an audience, but I couldn't shake that feeling of being treated like a criminal for helping my own kid. The next morning, I went down to the county clerk's office just to see how much authority this HOA actually had. Turns out, not much. Their incorporation paperwork was a mess, their bylaws full of contradictions. Legally, they were standing on toothpicks. I drove home grinning like a man who'd just found the secret exit in a maze. When Beverly showed up again later that day, probably to check if the trailer was still there, I met her with a smile. "Funny thing," I said, "I've been reading those HOA bylaws. Really interesting stuff." The way her expression flickered told me she understood exactly what I meant. She muttered something about consulting the board and walked off. That's when I decided if she wanted a fight, I'd give her one she wouldn't forget. 2 mornings later, I woke up to find a letter taped to my door. A fine for unpermitted moving activity. I swear I thought it was a prank. Beverly and her board, 5 of them total, showed up on my driveway that same morning, lined up shoulder to shoulder like a firing squad. "You've disturbed the neighborhood's sense of order," she said, waving another sheet of paper. I took a long sip of coffee and asked order. "You mean loading boxes?" She said, "Refusal to pay would lead to escalating penalties," I told her. "Then I guess I'll see you in court," and walked back inside. My wife called me stubborn, but honestly at that point it wasn't about the money. It was about dignity. By the end of that week, Beverly sent 3 more letters. One claiming tire marks in my driveway were environmentally hazardous, another saying my trash bins were visible for too long, and a third accusing our American flag of being faded beyond acceptable presentation. That was the one that broke something in me. You don't mess with a man's flag. So I started documenting every crack, every faded flag, every visible bin in every yard. I built a binder so thick it could stop a bullet. I talked to my lawyer friend, told him about the HOA's sloppy filings. He laughed, then got serious. You know, he said you could actually dissolve them. That one sentence changed everything. I started walking door to door, talking to neighbors, not to rile them up, but to listen. Turns out Beverly had been terrorizing this place for years. Fining a veteran for flying his service flag too high, citing a young mom because her kids left a scooter on the lawn, punishing a retired couple for hanging Christmas lights too early. Everyone had a story, and none of them were good. By the end of that week, I had nearly half the neighborhood ready to mutiny. When Beverly got wind of it, she panicked, sent out flyers titled "A Call for Decency," printed in Comic Sans, which honestly was the worst part. She called us agitators, claimed we'd destroy property values. I responded with one calm, factual email listing every legal flaw in the HOA's structure. Sent it anonymously to every homeowner. Within hours, phones were ringing, doors slamming, neighbors were outside talking again. For the first time, people weren't afraid. Then came the showdown. She called an emergency meeting, packed house, standing room only. Beverly strutted in, red pen in hand, trying to look in control. She claimed my documents were private and taken out of context. I stood up and asked loud enough for everyone to hear, "Are you denying these are your notes?" She stumbled, said they were procedural. I listed the parts about banning unmarried tenants, restricting flags. Mrs. Dalton, our 82-year-old neighbor, stood up, slammed her cane on the floor and yelled, "Call the vote." And just like that, every hand went up, except Beverly's. Even her husband stayed raised. It wasn't loud or dramatic, just final. The HOA would be dissolved pending county approval. She sat down, deflated, small. For the first time, I didn't feel triumph. I just felt relief. Of course, she didn't go quietly. She tried everything. Anonymous newsletters, fake code violations, even parked across from my house one night, lights shining through my window like she was staging a stakeout. My wife saw her and said, "If she stays any longer, I'm bringing her tea." We both laughed because what else do you do? The next morning, I filed the official dissolution paperwork with the county. The war was almost over. But then she crossed the line, reported my shed as an unpermitted structure, slapped a bright orange notice on it with a note that said, "Hope it was worth it." That was when I stopped playing defense. Harold, one of her board members, showed up that evening with a folder, meeting notes, complaint logs, all signed by her. Proof of years of overreach. I organized everything, sent it to every homeowner with one subject line: "The truth about your HOA." That night, the neighborhood changed. People gathered in driveways like villagers before a storm. Beverly's name was on every tongue, but this time not with fear, with anger, unity, and a kind of joy. The next day, the city confirmed she'd filed false reports. The woman who once called cops on me for unloading boxes was now being investigated herself. A week later, she walked up my driveway holding a single sheet of paper. "I'm resigning," she said softly. No speech, no excuses, just resignation. And you know what? Nobody cheered. We just nodded. Because it wasn't about destroying her. It was about freeing ourselves. We built something new, a community council run by volunteers, not tyrants. No fines, no titles, no presidents, just neighbors, helping neighbors. And when someone asked if we should invite Beverly, I said yes. Because peace built on exclusion isn't peace at all. She showed up eventually, quiet, humble, no clipboard. Sat down like everyone else. That's when I knew we'd really won. Weeks later, our son came home. No parade, just footsteps on the porch, and my wife crying into his shoulder. We sat together drinking coffee, watching the lake. When I told him everything, he just smiled that slow, dangerous smile of his and said, "That's the most American thing I've ever heard." And for once, I couldn't argue. That evening, the county sent the letter official dissolution approved. The HOA was dead. I framed it not to gloat, but to remember. Because power always creeps back if you forget why you stood up in the first place. So yeah, that's how a simple favor for my deployed son turned into a full-blown neighborhood revolution. We didn't win through shouting or force, we won by refusing politely and persistently to be bullied. And when I look around now, I see neighbors who wave kids playing where once there were warnings, and even Beverly, just another person trying to start over. Tell me, what would you have done? Would you have let it go, or would you have fought back? Drop your thoughts below, because this wasn't just my story, it's every community's question. What's more important, order or freedom?